England consistently saying this 30-year unbeaten record here on Eden Park is the All Blacks to protect, not theirs.
History might weigh heavily in the All Blacks' favour, but England are in a bullish mood. Now Talia picks it up. Mark Talia try. Wabosso, he's got it. He beats McKenzie on the inside, and England score. Smith tries another kick out. Talia waiting for. Oh my goodness! Absolutely brilliant. Here's Barrett in space. Beauden Barrett gets it away. Talia, he's in, and the All Blacks are back in front. Outstanding. Close to the line. What does Nick Berry say? Held up. All Blacks now 49 without a loss on their fortress.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening. Welcome to the breakdown. The All Blacks have done it. They have kept the streak alive thanks to a masterclass from the super sub Beauden Barrett. Over in the Republic, it took an Irish hero on the hooter to sink the world champions. And Caitlin Vahakolo scores 4 tries for the Black Ferns to beat Australia. We'll talk about all of that over the next hour and more. It's a big welcome into the program to Jeff Wilson, Sir John Kerwin, Mills Muliaina. 2 from 2 now for the All Blacks, but as former All Blacks, do you feel satisfied from the last 2 weeks' performances?
Well, I think last night the line-out struggled and our kicking game struggled, so I thought we'd see some improvement from the week before that we probably didn't get. So as ex-All Blacks, when you're looking for improvement, we probably didn't get it as in the places where we thought we would. Scrum's been really solid. Defence was very good, especially close in, they couldn't go through us. But the line-out really struggled, and so did our kicking game.
I'd say the character of our team is what's got us through for 2 weeks. Yeah. Our character, our experience, our impact, particularly last night, the last 20 minutes of the game, we were very, very good. England were out on their feet. I think when we go back and look at some of the great eras of All Black rugby, particularly in the professional age, the last 20 minutes is an area we owned when we've been a very, very good team. We owned that last night. And so I look at that, and there are aspects of our game we talked about, which were a little bit disappointing, a little bit frustrating, which didn't allow us to play. But I'm just going to quickly, before Mills, these are the stats for England in their last 11 games. This is the margins in their games. Win or lose. 1-6-1, 3-3, 2-9, 1-2-1, and a 7. So the margins when teams play England in the last 12 months are very small, Mills. So that tells me we played a very good team who are well coached, well prepared, and met an All Black team which clearly right now is still evolving as a group.
Yeah, I think there's still plenty of work to do. I think the frustration is the fact that we probably haven't got our game going, and that's due to the fact of the pressures that we've been on from a defensive point of view from the other opposite side. But you know, you asked a couple of weeks ago how many games would you be satisfied us winning, and I said 9, right? This is the reality. We're going to get tough test matches. You know, we're going to go now against Fiji, and you know, hopefully, I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of personnel, but you're seeing it also around in the Republic. These are tough test matches to be able to win. So, 1, there's a bit of relief and satisfaction that we've got the W's in both of those. But 2, I think we are evolving. I think there's more to our game than what we've had. We've shown a lot of character, which we needed to, and we've grinded out some win. But I suppose if we look at our DNA, JK, we still want to see that expansive game. And that's probably the thing as ex-All Blacks, we're thinking, man, is it going to happen? Is that new game plan going to evolve? I just think the last 2 weeks we've had to really sort of sit back and go, well, this isn't going to be a game that's going to open up. We're just going to have to win it hard. Yeah,
look, I think there's a few things that happened. The top 4 sides in the world, we've had a change in coaching staff. Russie's still there, you know, Farrell's still there. So they have just moved on. Whereas I think there's a whole new coaching staff. What this coaching staff, I believe, will be doing today is going, okay, is there information overload? Are we spending too much time on the scrum and not enough time on the line-out? They'll take a real good look at how they coached, and I think Razor said that last night. I don't think they'll do the innovation yet because they'll just want to get these, you know, they just want to settle in, get some new systems in place, and then we'll be expecting to see something a little bit different moving forward. What do you do this week? I think, you know, the interesting thing about being All Black coach, when you don't perform, it's like losing. so the pressure comes on straight away, you know, and that's hard. So they'll look at themselves, they'll say, okay, do we need to peel back some of the information? I actually liked the way we started the game. I thought there was some real expansive stuff, and did then that pay off at the end of the game, Goldie? You know, because I came down and I was pretty excited, and you said they've run out of juice, the English side, you know, they've run out of juice in the last 20. Was that because we played pretty expansive early and there was a couple of opportunities that we probably didn't take, you know, that cross kick. So, yeah, I mean, we won 2 test matches against a very good side with a whole new coaching staff, a whole new system. Your manager, everything's changed, you know. There's only a couple of staff members that have survived, and there's not many difference in the rugby team. They're still the same players.
You're talking about the coaching group. There's been some really honest assessments from the head coach anyway, Scott Robertson. This is what he had to say after the match.
You know, we just weren't transferring, I'll be honest, what we trained onto the field, but we created enough opportunities in the end, and that's test footy. We knew we had opportunities. We just need to be braver to get there, you know. Like, I take ownership that, look, I've asked them to do it, now we've still got to do it. And do I go to coach better? Well, that's what the next week and the next series is about, yeah.
2 really strong bits of information there, not translating the training paddock onto test matches. What does he mean by that?
Well, I mean, you prepare for something, or I think the hard part for this coaching team is they've had all of this time to prepare. They've got an idea in their head about how they want to play, and now they've got their hands on the players and they've got an opportunity to try and implement that. But that has to come with trust and understanding and execution and all those sorts of things. And that's not easy to do with a team. And that's why I put the margins and let you know the margins. That's a really good defensive side who's going to put you under pressure. Now, there's a game plan you can run, all right, against probably 6 through 11 in the world. 1 through 5, you know, when France, you play England, South Africa and Ireland, all of a sudden your game plan is going to come under real stress. And so I think for me, Mills, is I listen to that and go that they're wondering, the question mark for me they'll be having is, can we execute this plan that we've put in place? What adjustments do we make? And how much is it is about personnel. Yeah. And the trouble we have now is, what are the expectations, Mills, to play Fiji and San Diego? The fact that what team do they put together when, if other guys are trying to bet it in, the 2 team, they pick these 2 test squads to go out and deliver it. How many of those guys get another chance straight away, and what do you forego in terms of combinations? And you've got some young guys you might want to get a chance to pull on the All Black jersey and state their case. So I think this is a really difficult situation for this team to be in right now, because clearly the coaches aren't happy with what they're getting out on the park. Can
I ask you something, Mills? A couple of weeks ago, before the first test, you said you would start Beauden Barrett at first 5. So what would you do after the weekend? Beauden was one of the best super subs in the world for the All Blacks when he first started between 2012 and 2015. Is his best impact off the bench, or is it to actually be a starter for this side?
Well, he was fantastic last night, wasn't he? I mean, a super sub when he first came on, he's still got that ability. 124 test matches, and you're still doing stuff like this. I mean,
answer the question. Answer the question.
I honestly don't know. I think, and the reason why I don't know is because we haven't quite got the flow in our game. Part of me is saying we've got to entrust in the fact that, your point, JK, we've got to entrust in the guy that we've put out there, Damien McKenzie. He hasn't had that ride. But I think what he has done is absorbed all that sort of pressure to then go ahead. Beauden's going to be there. That's the great thing about it. When you play that many test matches and you come back with that spark.
Sorry,
I'm just laughing at.
No, I'm just laughing because my wife, who's Italian, can't pronounce Beauden's name, so she calls him bed and breakfast. And and I'm just laughing because when I came out of the field last night, my wife came to the game. She said, "Thank God for bed and breakfast." I said, yeah,
and you're
thank
right.
God for bed and breakfast. And B&B. He came on last night. There's a couple of factors we have to take into consideration. Impact players come off the bench and the opposition were tired, according to Goldie, and he was outstanding. This guy is world class. He's done that in 15, you know. But let's get back to the first 5 discussion. Beauden hasn't played there, right? Hasn't played there for a few years. He's been our fullback. And it took Daniel Carter a loss in 2-7, an injury, right? Moanga, who's been amazing. It took him a couple of years, remember, to really take the team and go, it's mine. And we nearly won a World Cup with his leadership. You can't just go, that's it, after 2 test matches. Does he need to improve his kicking game? Yes, he'll know that. Does he need to use his voice a bit more? They'll know that. I don't know what it was like on the sideline. But if we're going to commit to someone for the next 3 years, you've got to commit to him. And you've got to commit to him and go, let's go, son, because it's your football team. It's the only position I believe in the world where you need to do that. It's like the quarterback in NFL. You know, they've got to have complete trust. You feel when you're not trusted. So I think that his first 2 test matches haven't been what we expected, and that's mainly around his kicking game. And when you're struggling with a little part of your game, then you're not playing with the confidence that you need. And I haven't seen, and this team was put under a lot of pressure, I haven't seen the attack, you know. So Damien, if we're going to stick with him, you've got to stick with him. You've got to play him against Fiji to get some confidence.
This is, I think Ray's is also alluding to that. You know, there's stuff that's on there that the coaches are seeing, but having the confidence when you're out there, you can't train pressure. Right? You can't train pressure when you've been out there. You go, okay, here's what the coaches are saying. I can see it, and I don't know if I want to do it because the test match is so tight, and I've got to take control of it. And that's probably what he's trying to unleash. Now, if we had lost and they did those things that he asked for, he might have been a little bit happy. I just think there's still growth in what we're doing. The good thing is that we're not sitting here having given England a hiding in these last 2 test matches because they're a quality side.
The 3 most critical decision-making positions are 9, 10 and 15. They're all new to that position. Essentially, in talking of experience, Finlay Christie as a starter in this test match, Damien McKenzie a starter. He started 7 tests at first 5 for the All Blacks. That's all. 7 tests. Yes, he may have been in the environment, played a number at fullback. Most of his impact's been there, but he's played just 7 test matches. So he hasn't been given the keys to the car yet. He hasn't been given the opportunity to control the All Blacks. Last year, when he got his opportunity, he was very, very good. So I think we've got to understand he's a special talent. And I think if you now combine him, and I would do this, and I thought Beauden Barrett would start at fullback in these 2 test matches. They went another direction, whether or not that was showing faith in guys who'd played in Super Rugby, and Stephen Petafeta in the last month and was part of a championship side. But there were some critical plays in this game that Damien McKenzie did really well. That was one of them. He was that last pass there, that pass to Beauden Barrett, who would put him into a hole. So to suggest that he's not ready to run this team, I think he is. I just think he's doing it. He was doing it with an inexperienced fullback and a player who sat on behind Aaron Smith for a long time, Finlay Christie. So I think there's a lot of things here that he needs the benefit of time. I think he needs an opportunity, and I would like to see him start at 10 again, and
so
I'd like Beauden Barrett at fullback. I'd play him again, and I put Beauden Barrett at fullback because Beauden will help him take control of the situation a little bit more. He'll give him a little bit of extra voice. But to me, we've got to coach who we've got here, not who we might have in the future. And I think it's really important. Look, we know what Richie Mo'unga committed to when he was in New Zealand, but he's not here now.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, this is the.
I'm not considering this conversation.
I don't want us to start looking.
I'm considering B&B.
We don't know, but I don't want conversations about what's happening in next year or the year after that. The here and the now tells me that Damien McKenzie is committed to New Zealand rugby. He wants to be out there and be the All Black number 10, and I've got no doubts that he can do it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. This is a lot of learning that this group has to do.
Do we need to build a game plan around him, Mills? I've always said that he plays like a rugby league standoff. So do we need to actually build some attack around him where he is running a bit lateral and there's guys coming off? And do we need to build a little bit more around him as an attacker?
I think that's what we're lacking. We're lacking that real quick ball. We're not effective enough at the breakdown. The team, the English slowed it right down. When you're slowing it right down, you're having the defensive line come straight at you. Look at what happened when Beauden came on. You know, they started to win that sort of contact. You know, England started to backpedal, and then all of a sudden, Damien McKenzie was running the cutter. Somehow we've got to come up with a way to make our ball a lot faster, because when it is, we're really effective.
When you're talking about the breakdown, this is not your chance to bring up Hoskins Sotutu either, JK. Are you happy with what you're getting from the loose forwards? Are you getting the X factor? Are you getting the punch? Are you getting the hard hits from them?
I don't think the balance is quite there yet. I've been really impressed with Dalton. I just think he's just doing his work, making lots of tackles, getting off his line. I think Samipene has been quiet. I'm waiting for a little bit more from him. And I think Artie's still coming back into his own. So is the balance right yet? I don't know.
When there's a lot of kicking in the games, and there was a lot of kicking, particularly last night, that's when the loose forwards find it hard to have an impact on the game because they're not carrying, they're not defending, and quite often they're moving back and going back to situations. And there was a lot of the 2 or 3 phases, not going far, we're going to go to the year. And I think that sometimes put pressure on. I think momentum is critical against good sides, but I would say this, is the moment you get conditions that make it a little bit harder to handle and a little bit more difficult in terms of footwork, it's easier for the defence to come forward. And we just didn't win collisions once again, but how much of this is being done in our own half? And so how prepared are we to play with the ball in our own half, and what could we do differently, Mills? Because all of a sudden, quite often, if you look at comparisons, this is across the 2 test matches, I just look at the impacts they had on the game and what it created for us. I'm not sure. Once again, it's 2 test matches. It's a small sample size. We have such high expectations of our players. We've got so many options. And you mentioned one that didn't get an opportunity, but there are other players. Do we see Ethan Blackadder? Does he get his opportunity?
What about Wallace Satiti?
Wallace Satiti. But I would expect maybe to see some of these guys. But the trouble is, it's not against England now. Yeah. It shifts, and the next game will be against Fiji, and then we've got 2 against Argentina, which are critical in the Rugby Championship to start that off.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about that balance. I've always spoken about balance in the loose forwards and getting that balance right. And when someone's working hard, one of the other players can be a bit looser in his style of game. I think the other thing that we need to do is have a little bit more innovation around our carrying into contact. I think when you've just got your 3 pods now, you can get off the line and get smacked pretty hard, and this English side is very, very good at that. So I think some innovation and some variation I'm expecting, and I'm pretty sure it'll happen, moving forward, where you're showing the opposition a little bit more, because that English defensive line did not have to slow up.
We didn't go to the middle of the park once in a pick and go situation. Everything was off halfback, a little bit one pass carry. There weren't many opportunities in terms of tip balls, which had almost become predictable from ourselves. But once again, clearly Razor's not happy, Mills. No. There's some things they're not executing, right? They haven't taken forward, and that's confidence. That's, I suppose, a little bit of maybe it's understanding. He obviously feels time, but he feels as though in the training park he's seeing the thing he needs to see. But like you say, that's not the heat of battle. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'll come back to where I started. The character got us through to win 2 test matches, and I think that's great. Yeah. That we were able to fight our way through the situation, to come out on top, because ultimately, he knows as a coach, and you know it as a coach, you get judged on winning and losing. Yeah. It's not about what it looks like at that level.
And thank God for B&B.
Yep, bed and breakfast. There he is.
And at the end of the day, we've just talked about the All Blacks for nearly 20 minutes, but they did win the Test match, as you said, not playing anywhere near their best. If we just turn our attention to England for just a moment, we talked about the potential in the South African side, but what about the potential in this English side? Steve Borthwick, over the last 2 weeks, has harped on about the age. They're a couple of years younger, the average squad age, than the All Blacks. They've got about 600 caps rather than 1,000 starting caps for the All Blacks. How dangerous will this team be by the next Rugby World Cup? They're going to be there or thereabouts, aren't they? With Marcus Smith in the driver's seat over George Ford.
And this is what, I'll make this comparison quickly because we should talk about England because they deserve to be talked about because they're very, very good. Marcus Smith has been through a whole lot of difficult times as a team. He's been dropped, he's been back in, but he is really in charge of this team. He's really playing with confidence. But if you had spoken to him 12 months ago or 18 months ago, you know who he was in and out. And this guy's been through a lot of adversity, but now he looks like a confident young man who knows his game, he's confident in his own game, and he ran their team. The thing I like about Borthwick is he was unashamedly last year saying we're getting back to our DNA, Mills, and that DNA at times was boring if you watched it. But now they're starting to build on that. They know what they can go to. They put pressure on you at scrum. Their scrum probably wasn't as good as they'd want. Pressure on you at line out. They're physical, Mills. They are playing a DNA, but they're building on that. They're playing expansive. They played some really good rugby last night.
And they got criticised a lot building into sort of this earlier on when just before the Rugby World Cup, haven't quite nailed their sort of DNA, still made the semi-finals. And then you sort of come out this year. Now they're building on an expansive game through the likes of Mitchell and also Smith. I mean, they're hard and they're tough and, up front as well.
The loss of Furbank was huge for them at fullback. Stewart didn't have a great game. He certainly didn't offer them anything on attack. Furbank the week before was really, really good. I don't worry about 3 years, worry about November. We should be worried about them. Yeah, don't worry about the World Cup. Worry about November. We've got to go up there. It'll be the end of our season. Where we'll be at. I think they'll be at a situation where they'll be judging themselves once again against the All Blacks. The end of year tour is critical for the All Blacks, as it always is. But for England, once again, I've seen 2 test matches which they potentially could have won disappeared. But there's no doubt there's some talent there. The midfield of Slade and Lawrence, really like how solid they are.
But things like kicking off fast.
How good's Mitchell? How good's the halfback?
It's great. But even things like kicking off and catching the All Blacks unaware. I mean, it's seldom do you see that from an English side, where they rush to the 50-metre line and then sort of kick off. I mean, that's the sort of stuff they're really trying to build on. I like that.
Yeah.
I'll say this again, because I think it's a really important point. Borthwick was there last year. He's carried on this year. The players know what he wants. They've come into camp. They've just come off the Six Nations, right? And so I think, for me, it's going to take a while for this All Black staff to actually go, this is our DNA now. And we're all hoping our DNA is going to be innovation.
DNA's your DNA, though, JK.
DNA's your DNA, yeah.
So what you're telling us, JK, is just all to be patient.
Yeah. Thank God for being
won.
Take a breath.
We'll see if we're having the same conversation next Sunday.
Well, we've got a big year coming up, don't we know it? That is the first 2 of 14 test matches for the All Blacks. And Joey Wheeler was at the ground early, just doing what Joey Wheeler does. And I cannot tell you whether or not they'll be singing in this track.
Back at the Garden of Eden, there's no chance tonight for the English, is there?
No chance whatsoever.
You'll get a bit more confident, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been on these since Friday.
Is rugby coming home? I'm hearing that sentiment that you guys are going to upset the apple cart and turn over the All Blacks on Eden Park for the first time in 30 years.
Hey, it's been a long time. Someone's got to do it, haven't they? No time like the present.
Today I'll say we'll do the job on them today, and tomorrow we'll do the job on the fucking...
And how are you going to do it?
It starts at the back and it works its way forward, I'll tell you.
You ever seen a coach sacked within 12 months? You're about to see it, mate.
What, Razor's gone. I know you guys love a pipe, but you've had fun.
We may have had one or two. By the time Fitzpatrick threw the ball and out to Fox, Fox to Liner, the skip pass out to Stanley on the post, and it's yellow. Oh, what a wonderful try.
The fortress will bring them home, won't it?
Ton of faith, bro.
Yeah, ton of faith.
Always, bro. Always.
Love your work, bro.
Throughout all the penalty shootouts, everything, you know, it's been coming home.
I know it, and it's so painful that you just got an unwavering belief in your team.
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's the unwavering belief that hurts most, I think.
England is coming home twice.
Coming home. It's coming home. Zip it, would you? Get out of here. Get out of here. Right, what's your boss's name? You're going to say, you know, I'm supporting
Mark, I love you. Go England, yeah.
And give this man a pay rise, Mark.
No, my hockey, welcome back into the breakdown. Well, I've got 2 words for you. Kieran Foley. 2 drop goals from 42 metres out within 10 minutes of each other, and 1 to win the game and to sink the world champion Springboks. Ireland have had some big moments over the last couple of years when you think the tour in New Zealand. But how does this moment compare, Jeff?
Well, it's massive for them. It's massive for the fact that they had such a disappointment last year, and we know the disappointment because we gave it to them at the Rugby World Cup. They wanted to continue to prove that they're one of the top teams in the world. They did it in the Six Nations. They won that, and then they've come to South Africa, and we know how hard it is to win there. It's brutally tough, and I say brutally for the reason because that's what this Test match was. Absolutely brutal. I haven't seen as much blood in a game since the Samoa All Black first game, which was at Eden Park. I watched that from the sideline, thankfully.
Crazy.
Were you playing that game? And it was there was a motivation between these 2 teams.
5 stitches, I think I got that day.
How did you get 5
How
stitches?
did you get that?
That tells you how brutal the game must have been. If you got stitches
from the changing room. My head on the corner of the thing.
This game, though, there were 3 people in the blood bin in the first 8 minutes. Everyone was pouring with blood.
Yeah. And it was all accidental, let's be honest. It wasn't like the USC. But Mills, this was a physical contest. The South Africans, the Springboks, kicked 8 penalties.
Yeah.
And this, I'll expand on this a little bit later, but when you make a decision to play the game like that and to just take your points on offer, you leave yourself at risk of the margins being close, the game being close. You don't create any space, and that's when a late drop goal and Ireland showed their character, stayed in the fight, very much like they did the week before, and they took what was a wonderful result for them, and they'll pump their chest out. The only great shame about this is there isn't a 3rd test, because imagine it, how good that would have been.
I mean, this is created a massive rivalry. I mean, everything that's happened off the field leading into this, all the way from the Rugby World Cup and the stuff that's happened and the talk off it, it's created this mess. And that's probably one of the reasons why there was a bloodbath. But you're right. I mean, the game was brutal. I still think that both teams went out there to actually play a little bit expensive, but South Africa needed to keep playing. They needed to sort of go down there. They lost it. They didn't hit the mark on a couple of their key lineouts, and to try and push that sort of lead that they kind of had. But the Irish, man, they are tough too, man.
And their 15th and final test of the year. It had been a massive year, especially with the Rugby World Cup included in that, JK. Huge to go over there and win this last match.
Yeah, and I think I've still got some concerns with the players continuing to break the laws and 8 penalties and that sort of stuff. I think we've got a full world rugby. So for all our South African friends, this is not about you guys. It's about actually 3 penalties in a row. We should be looking at a short-term yellow card or something, because then that would actually, the guys wouldn't take risk. One of the Irish guys put both hands on the ground, another penalty. So the game is stop and start because the players are actually so combative, they're trying to get every inch, and we need to take them off that a wee bit, which I think would open the game up. But this type of rugby is so brutal, and it's so attrition-like that it's just like, wow, to get a win over there like that, it's something that a team that is building to win a World Cup, and I'll repeat this again, we lost for how many years before we actually worked out, and then we won. We smashed them by 1 point. But at this level, the top 4 sides, it was down right to the wire. And so drop kicks to win it are incredible. Something you'd see from South Africa.
But we've just seen it here, right? Tries are at a premium in these test matches between the top sides. I mean, if you're getting 5s and 7s, you're doing really well. And so I think I can understand 100% why South Africa did this, the fact that they were earning these points that were on offer and they were just taking and accumulating them. And they'd actually done enough probably in their own head to win this test. Yeah. What I'll say about Ireland, though, we've talked about them for probably a few years now, and they've developed their game. And they've got things they do in their style that puts defences under pressure. And they've made a subtle adjustment, particularly in their inside channel attack, which we know has been really slick. I want to show you a couple of clips. 2 tries they've created, and pure and simply, it's about overloading a channel, and they do it on the inside. If we run this footage on, we're just going to pause it right when the first receiver gets the ball, and just look what he's got around him. There's 2 on the inside, 1 in behind, 1 on the outside. Just 3 defenders for the Springboks. So the decisions they have to make defensively, so very, very tough. And just watch how this hole is created. First inside attacker drifts in, so we run it on. The guy in behind runs into a space that's created beautifully. And then you've got support inside and out, and Conor Murray scores a try. So that's, to me, it's an innovation. It's something a little bit different. Same thing here. This is in the test match overnight. Same thing, 5 guys in an inside channel, 2 defenders get isolated, 1 drags on the inside, we roll it on, a pop into a space, into a hole, and then you've got support inside and out. Conor Murray scores a try. So common themes in terms of structure, guys in spots, something they've done really, really well, but they overload a channel, put defenders in a situation they have to make a really difficult decision, and then they've got guys running into space. We've seen a lot of teams go out the back their mills, JK, right? And it gets predictable and you shut it down. All of a sudden they throw in a little bit of subtlety. How can we use our structure just slightly differently? One of those was the forward, 1 was with a back. Not just all the same, 1 was from a winger, 1 was a fullback. So to me, you've got to have some versatility and adaptability in your attack. That's something we've, at times, I think, over probably the last 5, 6, 7 years of the All Blacks, we've felt a bit predictable. Yeah. Ireland are not predictable. They are creative, and it's impressive to watch.
Do you think they're setting that up? The one thing that was amazing for me when I went to Rugby League, Mills, was I was used to Foxy running the show and calling straight off, but in Rugby League, they'd set up 2 rucks to set up the main play. Do you think they're doing that, Ireland? So they're going, let's just two to the right for that play?
The 2 guys on the outside know the ball's not coming to them. All they're doing is dragging a defender. It's the 2 guys on the inside are knowing how they're creating the space. So the 1 guy drags 1 in, the guy tips it.
But I'm talking about the 2 previous rucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're playing 2 dead rucks. Just go and set it up and move.
I mean, this is the thing. They're definitely setting that up. They've set themselves in that zone.
2 rucks, right?
I don't think it is. I don't necessarily think it is.
Might not necessarily.
But they might have enough numbers here for someone to be like, hey, well, let's run the play. On this occasion, it was 1 less number, but they still ran it. But to your point, Jeff, I love the fact that it's not just the backs that are doing it or the forwards, it's everyone.
Everyone.
And so when there's an opportunity that arises or they've got enough guys on their feet and they can see that and they're counting, obviously, in the heat of the battle, they're running a play like that and they're innovative. We've gone away from that, and I love that about the RSM. The other side of it too is they're big physical men.
Yep.
Not only are they actually hitting rucks and actually carrying really hard, they're able to ball play now, and that's been the most innovative thing I've seen out of the RSM in the last 3 years.
It comes back to your argument earlier, Mills. It's about how quick the ruck ball's coming and how you're cleaning out and doing that. You know, you've got to have good fast ruck to get around the corner and do that stuff.
Yeah, but in saying that though, I don't know if it needs to be lightning quick if everyone understands their role. And that's what they're looking at. They're going, I'm understanding the spaces we're trying to attack. The guy on the inside knows he has to drag there. The guy is popping that ball into a space beautifully. You know, and I think for me, there's just something that they've created. I think it's very structured. I think it's very well understood, everyone's roles, and then the timing is perfect. And that's the one thing. And I find sometimes that as All Blacks fans, we get frustrated when our forwards try something and it doesn't come off. And then it's like, oh, we've made a mistake. You've got to do things. You've got to, otherwise, if you become predictable, if you just one pass carry, and the opposition are prepared to tackle, they will tackle. You have to try things. You have to do things that will put the defence under pressure.
Are the Irish now, do you think, JK, the most niggly team to lose against when they tour? I mean, when they came over to New Zealand, they almost after that, we're almost kind of like far out. These guys are going to another level, almost to the case we thought, man, we hate them.
I'll tell you what.
Are they doing that to the South Africans now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of respect. I mean, I was the respect between the English and All Black sides, over these two tests. I think, I think that there is a healthy. I'm still think with Ireland. It burns deep.
Russie was very, very good in his aftermatch, so he was very, very humble. But I think it's the Eddie Jones factor, isn't it? Like, he is a coach that will start throwing darts early in the week, and Russie's similar, and I think there's a bit of that going on, you know.
Can I ask you a question then, right? So if who's the number one team in the world right now? Like, if you're talking about the Springboks, you've got Ireland who've just won the Six Nations. They've gone and split a series in South Africa. Do the Springboks have to win a rugby championship to go, you know what, we are the best team in the world currently? I'm not saying they're the world champions. They're the world champions, but ultimately for them is if you're going to reaffirm yourself as the best side, what do they need to do next?
Oh, they need to win the championship for sure. I don't think they care. I don't think Russie cares. I've always thought he's got a bigger... he cares, that's the wrong thing to say. I think he's got a bigger picture. But, I mean, I think you win the Six Nations from an Irish point of view, you're saying, I'm the best in the Northern Hemisphere. You win the championship, you say, I'm the best in the Southern Hemisphere this year, right?
It's a little bit concerning that these top two teams in the world that you're talking about being the innovators in rugby now have Tony Brown, who we talked about last week, and then Andrew Goodman for Ireland. These are two New Zealanders at the helm of the attack for both of these two sides.
Yeah, and look, I think coaching's changed around the world, and I think with the way our rules are, the defence is completely dominant. So you have to show innovation. You have to have the courage to show the innovation. And if you don't show that innovation, then it's going to be pretty hard to win unless you go back to a sterile type of game.
It's hard for an NZ coach to stay. They want the top job. I mean, that's the IP that we're talking about.
So great coaches.
Tony Brown said to me, there's not going to be a position for 4 years.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
And
find the best team you can to coach, and World Champions is not a bad place to go. But we've got someone across the Tasman, right, Kirsty?
Yeah,
who's trying to do the same thing.
Exactly. There are Kiwi coaches all over the world at the moment. Joe Schmidt is undefeated as the Wallabies head coach. Australia have gone back-to-back for the first time in 3 years, beating Wales in conditions that felt like Cardiff, they've been saying. They were sloppy conditions in Melbourne. But if you talk about progress with this side, they hit rock bottom at the Rugby World Cup last year. How much progress have you seen from them in 2024?
We've seen some courage. We've seen some skill. We're seeing, and I said last week, the players that actually should be wearing the jersey, and they've got some physicality. They've got a bit of more accuracy. I have to also, Wales have lost how many in a row now?
9 straight.
9 straight. So they're not a side that knows who they are. That'll be concerning to Australia though, because up front they weren't good defensively at line-out time. So there'll be elements of, but. Look, it comes down to it. It's about winning, and for Joe Schmidt and this group, there's some confidence. They look like a team that's on the rise.
Yeah, I think that you wouldn't have seen them that confident last year, and nothing fell their way. They're a confident team. I think they look well organised very quickly, which is what Joe's very, very good at. But I also think that Wales could have won that yesterday. Yeah. They are actually getting better, and for another New Zealand coach in Gats, Gats got back to Wales it was in disarray, and he'll build this team. He would want more wins, but I think what I saw in the Australian team was this freedom that they've always had. I'm going to have a crack from my goal line, and I think Joe has brought that with him, saying, you know, boys play, and they're playing with confidence.
Yeah, and the more they play together, the more flow they'll get in the game, the more confidence they'll grow. The guys that should have been picked probably in the World Cup, like you mentioned, Goldie, they're building. But in the same side, you look at the Welsh, they could have easily won that game for a bunch of guys that really inexperienced. So, I mean, that would be something that will frustrate Joe Schmidt.
Joe Schmidt will be on a mission.
What's the mission? To beat the All Blacks?
Well, it's to challenge himself to get Australian rugby back to where he believes they should be, but also it's the All Blacks. I mean, he looks at that, and you know, I know that you know, he found it really difficult the way things ended with Fozzie and the relationship with New Zealand rugby, and you know, he felt he had a lot to offer, and you know, you'd have to say, you look, the shift that the All Blacks made when he was involved, he was a massive part of that. This guy is a world-class coach. And so what he's going to bring is a lot of the things that you're hoping Warren Gatland's going to bring to Wales, but I think Joe's going to bring that with, I think, a more talented group and the right guys in the jersey. Lola Seal's starting to play and understand his role. Jake Gordon's a good halfback. Really like, he to me is a more traditional Australian halfback. So I look at them. By the way, Eddie Jones couldn't win a game coaching Japan.
You had to drop that
I just wanted to say that. I wanted to drop that in there.
You
Couldn't win a game because they lost to Georgia. Japan did over the weekend. So
That's right.
Where's he going next, and whose fault was that? Eddie? I wonder. I'm not. We've had Eddie on the show. He's been fantastic, but
leave my old mate alone.
No, hey, look, if you're going to throw yourself out there all the time, you know, there it is. Couldn't win a game. There's some massive results over the weekend for a lot of teams. Just saying.
Well, someone who took Australian Rugby League by storm as our latest game changer this week. He came across from State of Origin, the Kangaroos, to the International Test Arena. We are talking about the one and only Brad Thorne.
Brad Thorne, his first try, and he scores it in the land where he's lived so much of his life.
That little extra time probably made him more determined to be successful. And if you keep doing that, you know, the opportunity's going to come, and it did, and he didn't miss a beat.
Brad Thorne somehow got back. How did he do that? He's got the heart of a lion.
We want to be the best we can be. This is probably a good guy that you should be watching and picking up the behaviours that he has.
He could get himself to places that a lot of other athletes at that point didn't know how to do it.
He loved to carry the ball. I feel like he had more joy out of hitting rucks, moving bodies. It's not always the stuff that's seen, but his presence was always felt.
Lost the pass to Thorne. Brad Thorne. Another try for the All Blacks. Reminiscent of his Brisbane Broncos days, that.
If you talk to Sam Whitelock, he'll tell you how big influence he was on him, on his preparation, his diet, recovery. He was mentally tough, really tough. But then off the track, he was just such a lovely man. You know, he was so proud after we won that final in 2011. It was amazing.
You know, you imagine this kid, you know, grew up in Cromwell, Bannockburn, moved to Aussie, couldn't make rep teams, and then all this has happened. I'm just humbled, you know, it's emotional.
Outstanding performance from the Black Ferns. They really put on a show this afternoon at Ballymore across the ditch against the Wallaroos. 62 zip. Yes, you are reading that right. And joining us is Maya Joseph out of Brisbane. Maya, thank you so much for your time. As a team, how do you rate that performance?
Yeah, I was really happy with how we went. I think all the girls are as well. We really went into the game wanting to play freely, and we had just a few critical points that we were focusing on, and there was lapses, but I think for the most part we were able to do what we wanted for the full 80 minutes, which was really cool.
Maya, did you feel an element of pressure coming into this game and the fact that you probably haven't performed as well as you would have liked through the season? And what were the messages that Alan was giving you going into this match, going, you know what, was there an expectation that the performance would go up a level?
Yeah, we definitely wanted to go up a level. We haven't been together for a very long time yet. It's just been a few months, so. But I think it's come along really nicely, and I think we were able to go up that level, which is really cool.
Great performance, congratulations. Was it hard to actually stick to the game plan and stick to your plan when really you were so dominant?
Thank you. Well, our game plan was to try and play on top, to run a lot, and to offload and really pull trigger when we see space. So that we were able to, I guess, do that, which meant, I guess, yeah, we didn't really have to worry about sticking to our game plan because that was our game plan.
I like it. My type of game plan.
I like it too.
Really good, eh? Well done, Maya. I mean, you kept obviously the trophy in the cabinet once again. But you mentioned it before, you haven't been together for a wee while. It's been a long kind of season sort of building. Your next game's in Twickenham. I mean, what's the next step for you guys now? Do you play FPC? Do you go back into his conditioning window? What does it look like?
Yeah, we've got quite a few weeks together over the next couple months. There'll be a lot of trial games in that time as well to get as best ready as we can for England. But yeah, we're just going to stick together as a team and get as much time together as we can.
Maya, you're an incredible athlete, but you're also an incredible scholar. You're taking a break from a medical degree at the moment at Otago University. How nice is it actually being able to focus on rugby full-time as now a fully contracted Black Fern?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It was a hard decision at the start of the year to put those studies on hold, but since I have, I've loved it, and I've been able to grow so much in my game just because I've had so much more time. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this year.
My first phone call after my early days when I was playing in the internationals was to my dad. Now, you've got a very famous dad, and he's a hell of a coach. How quickly do the messages start coming through? When do you start messaging him? And what are the conversations like? This is what, I think your fourth test, am I right? That in the black jersey? I mean, are you starting to feel more comfortable? Is he helping you?
Yeah, I talk to Dad a lot throughout the week, Mum and Dad. But yeah, he's definitely been really helpful, especially with just the mindset stuff and pressure and all those kind of off the field mental side of the game. But yeah, he was here today, so it was really cool to meet with him and Mum and my sisters after the game.
You wouldn't be asking me any technical questions, Goldie, would he? Eh? Jamie?
Maybe a halfback.
Exactly.
He couldn't pass left to right. I played with him for years. He couldn't pass the other way.
He used to smash halfbacks. How was today's game plan actually part of the bigger picture to now go north and play this incredible English side that have really created this moment for us when we play them?
Yeah, I think we really respect England's game, and we know that we might not be able to run as freely as we did today. So we're really working on that other side of the game, our set piece, our kicking game. We didn't really have to trial that much today because it was on so much to run, but we're definitely working on that side of our game. And over the next few months when we have our trial games, it'll be a big focus for us.
Maya, thank you so much for your time, for joining us on The Breakdown. Congratulations, and we'll see you back in New Zealand. Travel safe.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
She has some talent, and that was some performance considering they haven't been together for a very long time. But I just want to pick up on the question you asked about her father, Jamie Joseph, giving her feedback. What kind of feedback were your fathers giving you after a game?
Oh, it was most important for me. It was the first phone call I made, and you know, my dad was a rugby
Was it always
coach.
positive, or?
Oh no, but usually it was a conversation about, but he was a rugby coach, and so I wanted feedback, you know. I got plenty of it, and it was bang on, you know, and so we agreed on it. No, it was an important part of my career. Unfortunately, I lost him early, and he died early, but it was an important part of why I played sport and why I was able to do what I could do.
I was the same, but then Dad lost his objectivity a wee bit, just sort of 2 or 3 years in, just because I was getting, you know, like my uncle used to say to me, 50,000 love you, 50,000 hate you. So Dad became very protective, so he'd only give me good feedback, but in the early times he was awesome. Mum was pretty good too. My mum was amazing. She was brought up in rugby, so she'd tell me, no uncertain terms, Nils.
Well, I'm interested in what advice Jamie Joseph would be giving a halfback. I mean, probably hey, don't go there because he used to try and kill halfbacks, right?
Exactly.
This team, though, Jeff, 62 points. Caitlin Vahakolo, world class. 13 tries in 10 test matches.
Superstar.
She is a superstar, but they are not getting the competition right now.
No, they're not getting the competition. My conversation around this is about the Wallaroos. And
what happened to them?
I think they're struggling. A lot of their talent's clearly playing in the sevens.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of world-class touch players as well. So it's not transferring across into the game of rugby for them. But if we're going to talk about them being included and combining, say, in Super Rugby Aupiki, I have no issue with their national team coming in. I think our four sides and their national side coming in and competing. We do it with we did it with the Warriors in terms of rugby league. Having one side in Australia and being able to upskill that group. If you split their talent into two, it might be too much. So I look at it and go, you know what? If we're thinking about it, put their number one team together, and if they win Super Rugby Aupiki, no problem.
Or a mixture of them and the Fijiana team. You know,
yeah, but they beat the Wallaroos beat the Fijiana by 50 points the week before. So the gap there is even bigger. So I'm as much as you'd like that, I think for me, I see it as if there's a pathway for them, it has to be almost their national group. And if they're playing, if we've got 5 teams, 8 games, semis and finals or whatever it might look like, I think that would help them because we need them to be better because they're our closest rival.
Please, I said this before, please don't think like the male game.
No, I'm not.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a good idea. This is what I want the female to think differently. I love that our girls are going to rugby league and then coming back and playing rugby. I think that's a great innovation. If we need to do, especially with Pacifica early in the piece, if we need to bring the Fijian women in, let's do it. Let's think differently about how we do this. You know, we can't think traditionally. If we want our grow, the fastest part of our game is growing, this female game, and we've got to think differently for crowds, for sponsors, for everything. So yeah, I think why not?
Well, for sponsors this weekend, the All Blacks are heading across to San Diego to take on Fiji. 1:30 we will be on air this Saturday. It is an afternoon match in New Zealand, but a night match in San Diego. You'll be there, Mills. What side do you expect to be rolled out for the All Blacks? Does this group need to stay together and have another crack? Or would you like to see the other debutants, Billy Proctor, Pasilio Tosi, Wallace Atiti, George Bell, would you like to see other players get a run?
I would. I don't think you make wholesale changes. I still think our spine on our core guys, the likes of the Damien McKenzie's, Finlay Christie if he's there, or do you give Cortez Vatama go? I think I'd also like to see Wallace. I think Wallace to get out there, and you talked about someone trying to dent the line, a bit more power, a little bit sort of so you can actually try and power your way through the middle. Perhaps looking at guys like that to get a shot, whether it's off the bench or not. But not too many changes, I'd say.
Biggest challenge for the coaches is stick to the plan, because when things don't go according to plan, sometimes you go, oh. So if they had it in their plan to play a whole lot of different people and rest them, they should stick with that plan. I would like to see a lot of changes to create competition within the side. If you're worried about Damien, put him back out there, keep him at 10. But I'd like to see Tamaiti and I'd like to see a few guys coming in and having a crack.
Wholesale for me. I'd like to see wholesale changes. Give everyone a crack. Give the guys an opportunity to impress, put their hand up and say, you know what, I'm ready if you need me. This is what I'm going to offer you. So I look at that, and it's no disrespect to the guys who've been out there, fought hard over the last couple of weeks, but this is a chance. If you're going to see them, now's the time. So particularly, I'd like to see Leonard Brown and Proctor get an opportunity together. Give Geordie a week off. I've no doubt where he is right now, playing world-class rugby.
There you go. That is us for the Breakdown this week. Travel safe to San Diego. We will be back on Sunday on the Breakdown. Thanks so much for watching.
Santiago Carreras. They go into the pocket for Frawley. It's over. He's got it.